Okay, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at a scenario where long Czechoslovakia is real. So this is, I don't know what it's called, but I think there's a name. But it's just this weird little thing I've seen people show me before. And it's just a very long Czechoslovakia. So we're going to be seeing what would happen if it was real. Obviously, I just said that. But obviously, just NATO and other alliances don't really exist here. And also there is not going to be any stability issues in the empire, because obviously that would make it kind of unfair for them. There really wouldn't be anything they could do. But yeah, we're just going to get straight into things. And so, long Czechoslovakia gets created somehow, and they start building up their military a lot. So I'm not sure how powerful this would actually be, all these lands, but we're going to say that there's definitely has to be quite a few people here. It's a pretty big country. So it starts to build up its military, and once it's ready, it decides to go after Moldova. Why? This is just kind of the first stepping stone for them. There's nowhere, it's probably the weakest country they border. Maybe Russia's weaker, I'm not sure. They could go after like Hungary or Austria, but those are a little bit stronger, plus they're closer to the core Czechoslovakian territory. So they just decided to go after Moldova to get some more resources and people. And so this invasion goes pretty well. I think this might be a little bit mountainous. I'm not actually sure on that, but I think it is. But soon enough, it just kind of crumble up. It takes maybe like up to a year, but they do just decease. And so now they have this really weird looking panhandle, and the entire country was essentially just a really big panhandle before, but now the panhandle has a panhandle. So that's great. Anyway, they're just going to do the same thing, building up their military and all that with these new resources and people. It's going to make them not that much stronger, but a little bit stronger. So one issue is that they still are landlocked, actually. And let's see, out of the countries they border, there's Germany, who's way too strong. Poland, that's way too strong. Ukraine, that's too strong. Russia, that's not even a question. Romania, who's like probably too strong. And then there's Hungary and Austria, both of which are also landlocked. So really the easiest way for them to get the ocean would probably be through Austria and then through Slovenia. I almost said Slovakia, but Slovenia. But still, they know that it's going to be kind of difficult. So that's why they're going to do some things over here. So basically, over here in Romania, if you didn't know, there's kind of like a Hungarian majority in like these areas, but especially like right here, I think. Like there's kind of this weird little triangle in the middle of here. It's Hungarian. So what they're going to do is that they're kind of going to send in some spies here, and they're kind of going to do some terrorist attacks on these Hungarian people. And Hungary's not going to be too happy about that, especially since the Romanian government kind of, well, obviously since they have no idea what happened, they really can't do anything about it. But Russia, but well, Hungary thinks that they did it, so they think that they could do something about it. So yeah. So with this new ally, the two of them are going to team up on Romania. But I know this is kind of confusing, but Czechoslovakia is not in the war yet. This is Hungary versus Romania right now. Hungary starts pouring in troops, but pretty quickly Romania starts to make a counteroffensive. But it's right about here that Czechoslovakia informs Hungary, not of their plan and all of the stuff they actually did, but they just told them like, hey, we're going to help you, here's what to do. So basically Hungary understands this plan now. And so, I mean, there's really not a lot Hungary could do, because like Romania is definitely stronger than them. So Romania is kind of pulls a reverse card and starts invading Hungary. And things are going pretty well, with their meeting not that much resistance actually, and so they start to get pretty close to the capital. But now this means that Czechoslovakia has been funding a lot for these troops, and they only are like now just using the funding. So now all of a sudden Romania's advance is halted and even pushed back a little. So they have to send out a ton more of their troops. So this is like, all their troops are getting kind of like isolated over here, which makes a perfect opportunity for Czechoslovakia to go ahead and storm in through Moldova, spearheading right on down and capturing Bucharest, and then capitulating their coastal area. This causes some severe panic in the Romanian government, as we also see that now another division has come down here and encircled these troops, who now are defeated. Yes, that's not good. Romania is, of course, still pretty strong, so they are going to send out some nice troops up here, as well as push them out kind of like around. Okay, the tolerance is way too high, but they're gonna do this. There we go. And they almost reconnect with their sea, but they are once again encircled, and that's not good. Czechoslovakia now starts a very big assault down here, and that goes pretty well. From here, this front line starts to collapse. Well, I mean, it does collapse. And now these two guys just start pushing on down here. And to make matters worse for Romania, Bulgaria sees that, all sort of peaceful discussion is lost. So they're just going to go ahead and seize the opportunity to try and get some free land out of this. I mean, Bulgaria and Romania probably are allies in real life. I'm not actually sure, but I would assume they are. But this is just because, Romania's government is kind of collapsing right now. It's very anarchy-like in here. So basically, there's not a lot they can do, the Romanians. So Bulgaria kind of has actually a good excuse, and they're just saying, hey, we don't want this to be a lawless wasteland, so we're instead just going to, capture it for ourselves, so we can manage it. There are these mountains right here, though, so they are stopped there, but soon enough, the few remaining Romanian troops are left and to nothing, so now they have to make peace deals. However, there is still a little issue here. Now Hungary's troops, who have been pretty exhausted from this war, are mostly all the way out here. So pretty quickly we see that Czechoslovakia goes ahead and stabs Hungary in the back. Why are they that? There. You see, Czechoslovakia stabs Hungary in the back and takes advantages to try and do this, which goes exceedingly well. So get pushed all the way down to here. The troops in Hungary really can't do much, and Bulgaria is not involved in this, by the way. But yeah, the troops in Hungary, the few that are remaining, already have low morale, and seeing that the country's already dying, eventually they really have nothing left to do other than capitulate. So yes, great job, Czechoslovakia. Now we get to take a look at this peace treaty, where, first of all, we see, that's not good. And as for Romania, well, obviously they're going to be both getting some land. Both Czechoslovakia, Moldavia, Hungary, and Bulgaria. So, but most notably, we see that Czechoslovakia, I'm just going to call it that, has gotten a coastline now. So that's pretty swell. They also don't look a little bit less. Now they kind of have look like this is their main portion, right here, and they just have two panhandles coming off of it. But yeah. So pretty quickly they've actually become pretty powerful, because they now have both Hungary and most of Romania under their control, which are two pretty strong nations, especially Romania. So after once again another rebuilding period of a few years of just using resources and conscripting and training new soldiers from these territories and using the natural resources, they're once again going to go on an invasion, this time into Slovenia. And I mean, I'll just spare you the details. Obviously Slovenia does not stand a chance, so they are taken and fully annexed. So far they have only fully annexed countries, and yeah. And we can all see who their next target is going to be, and that is Austria. But once they're kind of planning to do this, they start mobilizing their troops on the border. But Austria goes ahead and tells Germany, and Germany's pretty scary, so they're gonna not do that. Actually, they pull their troops away, and instead they're going to opt for going into Croatia. So once again, we see this happen. But as they, continue to push into Croatia, which goes pretty easily for them, some other European powers well, not even powers necessarily, but other European countries are starting to see that this is a very big threat, and so a lot of them are going to try and do something about this. So, let's just do that. We see that Greece is actually going to do something, as I guess we'll make them yellow. We'll just make them blue. So yes, the Greeks are going to not want to get invaded, so they're actually going to build up something for themselves here. So let's give them as many islands as we can. It's probably good. Their first target is going to be little old Albania over here. I don't know, why are they gray? Oh. Yes, Albania. Whoa. Greece begins to go after Albania, which goes pretty well. And as they're being beaten back, we do see that some other countries are going to retaliate. So now we have this little coalition forming against Greece. Pretty quickly this falls out, and now they start to get pushed back in this Epirus area. I don't know if that's how you say that. And they're even cut off here. But they're now going to fully mobilize their pretty much entire military and just hope and pray that Turkey does not get involved. I don't know why that turned purple. But thankfully for them, Turkey does not. Instead, we actually see Bulgaria is going to join in on this. And soon after that, we see that actually we will make these guys yellow, because soon enough, Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina are going to come to their aid. Oh, this is going to be a very confusing war, isn't it? Because Czechoslovakia is also going to get in on this. So now it is the red team versus the yellow team versus the blue team versus the pink team. So Czechoslovakia versus Bulgaria versus Greece versus all these guys. Turkey just decides to stay out of this mess, which is probably the good thing. And yeah. So pretty quickly, Bulgaria actually doesn't really attack these guys. Instead, they just go over the Macedon area of Greece, I think. That's what this is. They also do some island hopping for whatever reason, and that goes pretty well. Greece does start to push back these troops over here, now reaching back up to Albania and reigniting their assault. They also take over a lot of North Macedonia, and that goes pretty well. Czechoslovakia is also going to mainly focus on these guys, rolling through Vojvodina and most of Bosnia, like this. Honestly, I don't know if these countries, I don't think Serbia and Albania like each other, but they're just kind of putting aside their differences to not get killed. But it doesn't seem to be working too well for them right now, because seeing that they're kind of a lost cause, Bulgaria also decides to cut out being peaceful and instead just invades them. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 countries pretty quickly are left alone, and there's really not a lot they can do. Bosnia falls, and Serbia, their strongest member, capitulates. This oddly shaped group of 3 countries really can't do a lot. Greece continues to push up here. Bulgaria takes over Kosovo, and now Greece meets the Slovakians at the border here. However, while they want to make peace deals, Greece goes ahead and continues invading. So obviously that's not going to fly. So Czechoslovakia is going to end the peace negotiations early, and they're instead going to team up with Bulgaria again to take over more of Greece. So Greece has probably been the most exhausted from this war, other than the yellow team countries, obviously. So because of that, they're pretty quick to fall, especially as many of their citizens are protesting. And though it is mountainous, so this takes a couple years. The war in total takes a couple years. But eventually, Greece capitulates, and now Bulgaria and Czechoslovakia are left. So go ahead and take a look at this peace treaty. We are first going to see that Bulgaria is probably, they're going to be doing pretty well for themselves. as they're going to be getting a ton of land. We're just gonna like completely erase these borders. Yes. So Bulgaria's new border is going to be very large, as what was this, like the 4th Bulgarian Empire? I'm not sure. But yeah. So this is the new Bulgarian Empire. We see that Greece is kind of left as this sad little thing. We see that these guys are going to be taking a lot of this, which is, I'm sure, very stable. As they now do have a very big coastline. And now we just kind of get left with this area. So what we're going to go ahead and do, this gets made as a puppet state of Czechoslovakia, and we'll make them yellow. This gets made as a puppet state of Bulgaria. Greece is still okay, though. They just lost some land. This kind of is what they looked like before the 1912, the Balkan War, I think, maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah. So pretty quickly, these guys are kind of running out of options here. But over the next decade or so, they are actually now a pretty strong country, and they've improved relations with Bulgaria, but not all the way. But their main enemy right now is probably Ukraine and Russia. Obviously, Ukraine is very unhappy about losing this land, but they really don't want to start a war just yet. They might have a plan, though. And Russia, well, they are going to go ahead and make a deal with Russia. This is just kind of to show. Basically, they will give Russia this land if Russia helps them beat up Ukraine. So, right as Ukraine was trying to get Poland and Germany to help coalition against this guy, their plans are halted early as Russia and the Czechoslovakians now pretty quickly just really attack them with everything they have. So obviously the Russian invasion into Ukraine in real life isn't going great, but that's probably because they just aren't using that much of their military. But now they're full on just complete utter war right now. And so, especially with Ukraine being severed in half and fighting on all fronts pretty much, just not in the north and very south, but I mean even then kind of in the very south, their south part falls, and Russia and the Czechoslovakians work together to cut this off and capitulate the rest of Ukraine. No, you need to be red. So this border is so yeah, they're just gonna completely redraw the border here. Russia is like, hey, we're gonna kill you if you don't give us a little bit more land, and Czechoslovakia really doesn't have a choice but to accept. So they do unfortunately have to give up some of their longness, but they still are pretty long. Russia is going to be taking, it's pretty simple. Russia pretty much just gets the west, the east, and Czechoslovakia gets the west. So if we just do this, we now see that Czechoslovakia is probably almost definitely the biggest country in Europe other than Russia. And so they are pretty powerful now. And naturally, now they need to show off their power by hopefully going for some more powerful nations. And that is going to include Austria. Now the reason they go after Austria, who isn't actually that powerful, is because they know that Germany's going to invade. But they don't go after Germany directly, just in case for some reason Germany backs out. Bleh. So yeah, they start invading into Austria, and for a couple days actually, Germany doesn't join, but eventually they do get around to doing it. And let's just do that. And so now they did expect this, so this is gonna be what they wanted for some reason. So Germany has been prepared for this for a while, which they weren't fully anticipating. So because of that, they do start losing some land, but they just kind of reorganize their troops and use some military tactics to try and get these guys out a little bit. Germany holds this front line pretty well, but up here they actually get pushed back a little bit further because this is where they're sending most of their troops, the Czechoslovakians, as this is pretty close to their core territory. As for actual Austria, it is not going too well. Vienna is captured, and soon enough they're pretty much just the Alps. Eventually, Czechia is fully reclaimed, and now they start to push into Germany. And turns out that Germany really wasn't, wasn't really prepared for this, because Czechoslovakia has gotten extremely strong, and with all their military building up, all the conscripting and using natural resources from from Czechoslovakia, obviously, Hungary, most of Romania, most of Yugoslavia, and a good portion of Ukraine. And so, soon enough, it is still a pretty difficult war, but slowly but surely they do continue to push into Germany, with Berlin in sight. However, we are going to see that Germany is not alone, as Italy goes ahead and joins on their side, which is not great. Italy mainly focuses on liberating Austria, but once they liberate pretty much the entire south, they go ahead and start invading down to Dalmatia, and this is kind of a lot for Czechoslovakia to handle. However, they once again reorganize their troops, so Germany does recapture all of this, but Czechoslovakia leaves a successful panhandle down here, isolating these troops from the supply line. There still is a lot of troops down here, though, so they just kind of go down here, and now they just kind of hold out here. And it's definitely a nuisance, because they have to send down a lot of their troops just to keep this thing from expanding, but that is still a lot of their troops that they have to keep down. So we see that Germany and Italy continue to push them out further, but eventually they do get rid of these troops. But by this point, all of Germany and Italy has been liberated, as well as most of Austria, and they've even started to invade back into Czechia. So, Czechia takes all their troops out of Slovakia, out of Austria, to focus on defending their land up here, which goes nicely in the north, but not in the south, as we see Hungary and Slovenia get kind of destroyed. Now we see that the blue team has taken a little trick out of their book, out of the Czechoslovakians' book, and they now cut them in two. So that's not good. So these guys are not entirely sure what to do, as they're now getting sandwiched in from all sides, as pretty much their most core territory now falls over, and these guys start to roll through them. However, they're now going to send their entire military's full might, also making a amphibious invasion down here on the coast of Italy, which is actually very successful. They asked for Bulgaria to help them, but Bulgaria just kind of declines, and now Italy has to recall a lot of their troops to help defend this thing, but there's some logistical failures, and soon enough, the entire two Sicilies area is taken. Still, though, they are halted in their ascent up here, but they do now start to make contact back with Austria, and they push in a little bit. Germany still continues to sweep through this, but we now see that another amphibious invasion is made right here, now cutting this off, and now Italy is just sandwiched down until eventually Rome is under siege and falls. Sardinia does too, and now this southern thing collapses, as well as Austria, as Vienna is captured, and soon enough Italy surrenders, with Austria taking their lead, following their lead, I guess. And now this once again is panhandled. There's a lot of spearheads in this war, but now things are going pretty well for the Czechoslovakians. Germany is continuously getting pushed back, and there's not much they can do. However, we see something interesting happen. which is that Bulgaria is going to go ahead and actually, we'll just color the puppet state in red. Bulgaria is actually going to go ahead and join the effort against Czechoslovakia, which is not good for them. Bulgaria continues, well, not continues, they now start to push up into these areas, taking the Czechoslovakians by complete surprise. So, once again, they reorganize their troops. I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself a lot, but that's just what this war is like, I guess. They move along this coast, actually, as well as this coast. And pretty quickly, they make their way down here. Greece decides to stay neutral. And they just move down this coast, because this is, like, kind of rebellious, so it shouldn't face much resistance. Which is kind of true. So, this part of Bulgaria falls. However, they do make a pretty substantial push in this area. And this now two-front war helps Germany out a lot, as they now continue to make a counteroffensive in here, almost linking up with Bulgaria, which is obviously not good. So these guys go ahead and start sending in their troops here, cutting it off into like a triangle, and then slowly just withering it down, as well as this handle kind of fails, with this now being cut off. Czechoslovakia then continues to send in their troops here, and soon enough the rebellious lands of Bulgaria are just completely going against the government, as pretty much all this land just breaks away without any resistance at all, and a lot of the native people here even help out the Czechoslovakians, which is kind of stupid because the Czechoslovakians have done the same thing, just to different people. These guys, Bulgaria falls. Yes. So now this war is kind of stalemated, and talks and rumors about possible peace negotiations start to occur. But I cannot talk. We see that Czechoslovakia has one little trick up their sleeve. They're going to begin to show off something very interesting that the entire world did not expect. But turns out they have developed nuclear weapons in some of the time. This has been something they've been working on for a long time, pretty much since they were formed, and now they're finally ready. So they still only have like 4 nukes, and they do not use these very, very sparingly. One is dropped on Berlin, one on Vienna, one just on a major city here, and one over here. With this, Germany is completely in shock, and their entire military starts to collapse, and there's really not much they can do. Czechia is liberated, and soon enough all of Austria falls, with them just having to push past the radiation. And they kind of just they probably avoid the major cities now, because there's no one even there anyway, because they're all dead. These aren't the most powerful nukes in the world, but they're still stronger than the ones dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in World War II. But they aren't super strong like the Tsar Bomba or anything. But still, these cities are completely leveled. So Germany is just completely anarchy now. There's nothing they can do. I don't believe that Germany has nukes either, and so there's a lot of pleading for France or Britain to use their nukes on the Czechoslovakians, but they just do not do this, as they do not want a big nuclear war to start, because they are not sure if Czechoslovakia has any more nukes. That is not public information, of course, so they just don't want to risk it, because then they themselves would also get nuked. We do not want Paris or London getting disintegrated. So Germany begins to fall. But you know who does have nukes and really is not afraid to use them? Russia. So Russia previously made this deal with them to take out most of Ukraine, but they're pretty unhappy that these guys kind of stole, quote unquote, a lot of their land, because they believe that all of Ukraine should be theirs, as well as Moldova. So because of that, they have been secretly plotting against these guys for a while now. And so, though Germany does capitulate, we see that Russia is going to use even stronger nukes on the Czechoslovakians. See, It's bigger, so it's stronger. We see one on Prague, one on the capital of Slovakia, one, I'll put it right here, one here. And the thing about Russia is that they have a lot more than 4 nukes. I think they have more like 4,000. So not the strongest, but like probably about 100 mid-tier Russian. So yeah, 100 Russian like mid-tier nukes. Like if you were to order them from strongest to least strongest, maybe this would be like 400 to 300th strongest, are just well, I mean they're just sprayed all over this thing. And yeah, so these guys did not have more than 4 nukes, and any hope of developing more than 4 nukes is completely gone now. Russia goes ahead and unleashes, they do a secret mission to unite with Belarus. I mean, they've had this secretly planned for a while, but they do unite with Belarus. And soon enough, they also, well, this isn't really related to the video, so never mind. But, yeah, there's literally no military here anymore, so pretty quickly, literally everything goes under Russian occupation. And now we get to see this peace treaty. Okay, in this peace treaty, we can see that Europe has been completely changed. Staying over here, Russia keeps Belarus, of course. You also get all of Ukraine, Moldova, and probably a good chunk out of Romania. Romania is back, just very weird looking. Bulgaria has been reduced by a lot. They are still alive, though. Greece is doing pretty good now. They have some of their lands returned. New borders have been drawn up for these countries. Hungary has decided to pay Hungary some reparation by giving them a ton of land. So we kind of have like a Hungarian empire returning, which is surprising. So yeah, as you can see, like these borders look completely different, but that's just because like they wanted to give some land to Hungary, so they had to compromise, and plus all the war stuff did, cause a lot of exodus and a lot of people moving from place to place. The ethnic groups are all kind of messed up, and everything just kind of needed to be changed. So that's amazing. Great job, Czechia, Slovakia. These two have gotten a divorce and have both been made slightly smaller. So Slovakia looks pretty much normal. Maybe they just lost a little bit of land to Hungary. However, Czechia has been pretty much cut in half. Most of their land has been given to the new German-Austrian Union. These guys also took some of Slovenia and Croatia. These guys, well, obviously everyone felt bad for these guys, and these guys needed help, so they had to unite just to not completely collapse. And they also gave them a little coast down here on the Mediterranean just to help with that. And yeah, that's how this went. So yes, the long Czechoslovakian dream, it was never meant to be. So yes, I'll see you next time.